Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Purpose People podcast. I've got Ollie Griffiths with us. So, hi, how you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making the trip from Wales over to Bristol.
Yeah. Only 55 minutes, just over the bridge. So
that's awesome.
All
So,
good.
you're obviously in property, and we'll unpack that as we go. But when you were at school, was that something that you felt, hey, I want to get into property? Did it interest you?
Never.
No,
I wanted to be a professional sportsman.
What was your sport?
I wanted to be a rugby player, or a cricketer, or a footballer, or something along those lines. But it never materialised at school. But
was there a sport out of them all? I mean, obviously, rugby is quite a big one for the Welsh.
Being a Welsh, yeah.
Yeah. Was it rugby or was it another sport?
I went to Taunton School in Somerset.
Yeah.
And I went there as a keen rugby player.
Yeah.
But as I was there, I became a better cricketer. So I actually then, when I left school, I went on to play a good level of cricket.
Yeah.
I was always playing good standards of rugby when I was in school. But yeah, so it was always a dream to be in sport in some way.
Yeah.
And I kind of almost fell into the world of property, but don't regret it. Absolutely love it.
No, so for example, like on that journey, when obviously there comes that point of what you're going to do, did you speak to a career officer or anything like that at the time?
Do you know what? I came out of university and I was working for the Hard Rock Cafe. So the Hard Rock Cafe set a new restaurant up in Cardiff city centre. Yeah. It's not there today, funny enough.
No.
It's like the first one they ever closed. It didn't quite. Once the novelty wore off, I don't think it did particularly well. But and I was working there. I was doing some waitering, and I was working in the marketing department, and I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had done a sports science degree, but for one reason or another, I was finding it challenging to try and get into the sports sector.
Yeah.
And so I was working for the Hard Rock Cafe, and I was on a day off and walking down a high street in Cardiff, and there was a sign in the window saying, part-time viewing person required.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, that sounds fun. So I went in and I said, you're looking for a part-time viewing person. Can I apply? And they went, oh, I'm so sorry, but it's been taken. And I went, okay, no bother. And I went on with my week. And I've had a call a couple of weeks later from the manager of that office to say, the lady that was meant to do it didn't turn up. Do you want to do it?
Wow.
And I went, yeah. He said, we'll pay you 45p a mile. We'll pay you whatever the basic wage was. And then it would be viewings on a Saturday for the office.
Yeah.
So in my early 20s, I have to scramble to get a car. So I went to Mum and said, can I borrow your little KA? She said, well, make sure you give me the 45p a mile.
Right, okay.
She never did. She never got it.
Good.
And that's how my journey started. I was the part-time viewing person on a Saturday doing viewings, and I just loved it. I love people. I think what I love about property is the people element.
Yeah, of course.
And meeting the different people and helping them on that journey.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing the viewings, I was enthusiastic, and I was getting financial. Have you seen our financial advisor? And they go, no, we haven't. I said, well, you need to go and see him because they can do some great offers and da da da. And I was getting offers. It was about 2004 at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Market was hot.
Yeah.
Different world then. People are walking off the street and want to book viewings and look in your window. And that's how it started. The manager came to me one day and said, can I have a word? And I thought, oh God, what have I done? Mm-hmm. And he said, have you ever thought about getting into this game? Because you'd be fantastic at it. I'm getting great feedback on Saturdays, and you're doing more business on a Saturday than my negotiators.
Wow.
So I said, go on then. And there was a process I had to go through. I had to meet the area manager and became a sales negotiator.
Wow.
And absolutely loved it. And just threw my heart and soul into it.
And you know what's good about that is like you've taken that risk to do something a bit different, and then you've obviously found the flow. You found the flow of what you do, and someone's recognised that, and they've said, yeah, go for it. And I think for me, I love that. I love that as a story that you started small and then it's gone big. And I think for me, it's like it's learning that area of side hustle where you just start, let's just test it out. Let's give it a go. And then all of a sudden, I love this.
Yeah.
And I think what I find in entrepreneurship, it's either all in or not.
Yeah.
And no one's willing to try it first. Just dip your toe in, give it a go, see if you enjoy it. And then invariably, you probably will.
Yeah.
And then back yourself, which is obviously what you did. So how old were you then when you took...
So I was about 23 at the time.
Did you
22, 23.
Did you get a car?
So eventually I got a company car.
Yeah, nice.
So I was working my way up. So I was only a negotiator for 10 months.
Okay.
Because then I decided to really, really move my way through this sector. I had to be a valuer.
Okay.
I had to understand how to value property, take properties on. The rock stars are always the negotiators. They're always the ones that get the bottle of wine and the chocolates and, thank you so much for selling my home. And the valuers are just, the ones in the back that are the essential element to each estate agency business that don't quite get the credit that some of these negotiators get. But that was okay for me because I felt that my journey, if it was going to progress in this sector, I needed to have that in my artillery. Yeah. So I then went down the valuing route,
It's funny. It's like I remember. I didn't show my age now. Can you remember Kathy Dennis as a singer?
Yep.
So she made more money as a songwriter than she did as an artist.
No doubt.
And
there's a few like that.
Yeah, and she wrote "I Can't Get You Out of My Head" for Kylie Minogue.
Oh, really?
And so she made an absolute fortune from it. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's like that. The people that make the money are not necessarily the person on the stages.
Yeah.
It's the person behind the scenes that's willing to do the dirty work, so to speak.
Yeah.
That actually are the drivers and the successful people. And Kathy Dennis had come out and said, listen, everyone knew who I was, but I made more money writing songs than I ever did being an artist.
Yeah.
And I think for me that's, again, it was like you were building, or like you've learnt this bit, now I want to build the next bit, now I want to build the next bit.
Yeah.
So you were not just doing a role, you were building a career, so to speak.
Absolutely, because the next stage then for me was then going to become branch manager. So I did, you couldn't be a branch manager if you didn't know how to value houses.
Yeah, of course.
So, I negotiated, I then was the valuer, and then around about the banking crisis, 2007, when it was starting to, oh God, where the hell are we going?
Yeah.
Lehman Brothers are about to go tits up.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity then where branch manager's job became available down in Cardiff Bay.
Okay.
So Cardiff Bay was booming at the time, leading
Yeah.
up to the housing crisis, huge amounts of development. And the company I worked for, Countrywide, one of the biggest companies at the time in the UK, had an office in Cardiff Bay, and the manager's role became available. I was 24, 25 at the time.
Wow.
And there was a lot of sort of older, more experienced players that were applying for the job.
Okay.
And I wasn't even thought of within my peers. They didn't even think that, Ollie Griffiths, no, he won't know how to run an office. I thought, oh, really? Okay. So I went into the interview process as professional as I could be. I prepared as thoroughly as I could.
Yeah.
I put together a plan and a strategy of how I was going to take this office from where it was, doing very well, very good numbers, onto another level. And I got the job.
Okay, look at that.
And the rest is kind of history in terms of the journey. But I was an inexperienced manager going into a marketplace that basically collapsed during the banking crisis. Yeah. And so the second-hand market was in negative equity. Yeah. So no one could sell their second-hand apartment or property within Cardiff Bay.
So how did you... So in that, obviously it's crisis, like it's quite a large crisis. So how did you remain positive? Because it's very easy to be a victim and then just like moan with everybody else, go, oh, well, their property's gone down and woe is me. So how did you maintain that level of, keep going?
I think I've always felt that I've got a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit to me. So I think it kicked in early on. So I kind of was thinking a little bit more outside the box.
Yeah.
So how are we going to make money?
Yeah.
If we can't sell secondhand property, where are we going to be able to sell? And so what I recognised was that there was a hell of a lot of new home development sites still out there, finished, completed, and just not selling.
Yeah.
We had Bellway, Taylor Wimpey, which was George Wimpey at the time, but then merged with Taylor Woodrow to create Taylor Wimpey.
Yeah.
At Barrett's, you had the big boys there. And there was a lot of, these sites weren't selling. So I started to go and visit the sites. I'd buy a box of chocolates. I'd take my business card. I'd go and chat to the girls in the office, try and get a coffee with them, say, pass my details on to your director. I'd love to speak to them. And they were saying, yeah, we love what you're saying, actually. So I got them on board, and then weeks and weeks would go by and I wasn't hearing anything, but I kept visiting, kept going to the sites, and then eventually the director of Taylor Wimpey, at the time George Wimpey, called me.
Wow.
And said, we've got this site on Dumbles Road in Cardiff Bay. There's 25 units that are just not selling.
Yeah.
Do you fancy meeting me for lunch? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And my proposal was, give them to me. I'll take all the keys. I'll take all of the photography and floor plans. We'll launch them all fresh at new prices. You take your girls off-site because there was another development in Swansea they wanted to get to.
Yeah.
And we'll get them sold out for you. And because I was able to get the prices reduced significantly because they needed cash flow, it gave me an opportunity then to be able to sell them. And then that's how the journey started there, right?
Wow, okay.
I sold the 20, well, it wasn't me, it was me and my team.
Yeah, of course.
We sold the 25, and then Taylor Wimpey had Victoria Wharf in Cardiff with 120 units that they needed to sell.
Yeah.
And they gave me all 120.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. And that year of the banking crisis, we made a profit.
And you know what I love about that is like, because I don't believe a lot of people think being an entrepreneur is starting your own business and running out, but it's actually thinking outside the box. That's ultimately it. There's got to be a different way. I mean, some people have called it an intrapreneur, where you're working for someone else and you're coming up. But I think in the midst of crisis, it is that thinking differently, and willing to take that risk and willing to back yourself. And so, again, it's like it reminds me of software development, the way that you work, because I was one of my verticals is that you're doing your minimum viable product, so you're testing it at a smaller level, proving yourself in it, and they're like, well, if you can do it for that, you can do it for the big. And there just seems to be this little pattern that I'm seeing as you're talking. It's like you do it small first, you try it, and then you go all in, and
100%.
And then the trust is there. So awesome.
Yeah.
So so obviously you got your 120 products. So then what happened then? Did you just keep scaling, keep growing?
Yeah. So they actually opened up another office across the other part of the bay in the International Sports Village.
Yeah.
I thought that was a mistake at the time by the MD, but nevertheless they did it. They were committed. They did it. I ended up running both of them.
Okay.
But I was getting itchy feet. We were coming out of the banking crisis. It was around 2009, 2010. And I was getting itchy feet. And so the director at the time offered me their flagship office in Bristol, in Bradley Stoke.
Yep, made that.
And that was their big Bristol office. And so I ran that for a year, moved to Bristol, ran it for a year. It was a tough gig.
Okay.
Because the expectation now, all of a sudden.
Yeah, you've created it for yourself.
Yeah. It was there with the office because they always think it's their big office. So the expectation from what I did in Cardiff Bay was there to take it to another level. But the market was so challenging.
Yeah.
But we did okay. There was some good stuff going on. But it was at that point then I thought, look, if I'm going to really make some money and really make something in this game, I need to go to London. That was my overall thought.
Okay.
So that's what I did.
So when you go to London, what do you do? Do you go and look, survey? How did you start that journey?
I basically I got a job with a company called Sequence. So you'd know them in this neck of the woods as maybe Fox and Sons or Allen and Harris or something like that. Yeah, they're known as Barnard Marcus in London.
Yep.
And I got a job running their Fulham office. So I fundamentally packed up, found a room in a house share for, at the time, £750 a month for a room.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Back in this is 2010.
Yeah.
And I went. I mean, they were a bit upset with me.
Yeah,
my employer.
Yeah.
We brought you into the flagship office and now you want. But I'd gone through the senior management course with them.
Yeah.
I passed that with a high merit. And it was just the natural progression for me. I wasn't looking to...
Well, the thing is, it's one of those things where, London, obviously, the property market and what it stands for, whatever, then, if you progress in your career, it does make sense that you, at some point, London becomes part of that journey. So, but again, backing yourself, going in now, and Fulham.
Yeah, it was. Well, that's where I lived.
Okay. Yeah.
So I lived in Fulham.
Yeah.
And I ran it didn't work out.
Okay.
In the first instance, I found the company to be. How can I put this? I found them to be a little bit archaic in their process.
Yeah.
Everything's paper.
Right.
You've got a system, a CRM system, but we prefer you to use paper.
That's good.
And I just I'm not so sure on this.
Yeah.
But I got headhunted, and this is how it can always work out. When I was working for Countrywide, someone who worked for another brand of Countrywide who knew me now was director of a company called Jackson Stops, which is a high-end real estate brand across the UK. London, there was 8 offices, and he had become the director of these 8 offices, found out I was in London, and the position for head of sales at Richmond had become available.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have a conversation about me running that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the toughest interview process I went through in my time, because it was, I think I had about 3 interviews.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought, there was part of me thinking, I'm not sure if they think I'm your man here.
Yeah.
This Welshie, I don't know if he's for us. It felt a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But I got the job.
Well done.
And I had a point then to prove.
Yeah.
There was some hilarious stories. I went to my first ever managers meeting in Mayfair. And it was just, another level of operator in that room that I was maybe not used to.
Yeah, okay.
And I realised in that first meeting that I'm now at a stage where I've got to up my game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because if this is my peers and my competitors, this is the standard, right from the way you dress to the way that you go about, meetings and business, etc. And there was one guy who just kept staring at me across the room in the managers in the meeting, and I thought, why is he staring at me? And then after the meeting, he came over to me, and he's very loud then. He ran the Holland Park office. And he said, so you're Ollie, are you? And you're running Richmond. And he looked me up and down. And he went, okay, well, lovely to meet you, and walked off. And I thought, what the hell have I got myself into here?
Yeah.
We actually became very good friends.
Which is funny. He probably said more in that not saying anything than if he had said something.
I don't know what his tactic was at the time. But I went on to run that office for 8 years.
Wow.
And we had the best results that.
So because obviously you don't want to be competing. Naturally, it's the name of the game. So how did you stay ahead? What is it that you changed about you in that period of those 8 years? Did you read more? Did you research more?
Yeah.
Did you study more? How did you stay ahead?
I got into current affairs a lot more. I
Okay.
got into politics, current affairs, finance, just educating myself. So if I was going to, I mean, Richmond has got the highest mean salary in the UK. So the people that live there
Yeah.
are in jobs that are, another level.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking finance to advertising to, you name it, they were there.
Yeah.
And so I think I had to invest in me to be able to go into these meetings, go into these multi-million pound homes,
Yeah.
and actually come across with the experience and the knowledge that I know about the market, and how to go about selling some of these, this beautiful real estate.
Was there any books that stood out for you that you read in that time?
Do you know what? I've become a bigger reader
Since, yeah.
in latter life.
Okay.
I do a lot of reading. Simon Sinek is someone, for example,
Yeah.
that I follow and read.
Yeah.
Always Start With Why is the last book that I read.
Yeah, okay.
So at the time, it wasn't reading. It was more newspapers, Financial Times.
But you're
Times.
immersing yourself into the target audience, and again, this is what people don't talk about when they, when you're working for someone, the often tendency is to say, we are the best company in the world. You must work with us, and we provide this service, this service, this service. But what you've done is you've gone, no, I'm going to find out about my audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to know about them, what they're interested in, because there's a gap in terms of my knowledge and how I create rapport and relationship, and ultimately create empathy.
Yeah.
And I think again, these are, as you talk, these are principles that it's unusual that you're doing them. You've just built them out, but they're great tips for people there to say, well, how do you win where now we're ultra competitive because you've just been looked up and down by some strange guy. I tell you what you need to do is you need to...
Who's on the same team.
Yeah, exactly. So what do? You know more about that audience than anybody else.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what we don't do. We don't research deeply enough. And I think for me, even with the AI and ChatGPT, I think people underutilize it. They're getting ChatGPT to do the work rather than do the research.
Yeah.
And I think ChatGPT is a fantastic tool if you do the research and then you do the work.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get much better results. So I think, like what you said, just learning about current affairs and politics. And
I think
that
the
sort
other
of
thing
stuff
I
is
did,
great.
though, as well, is I tried to embed myself into the community of Richmond. I'm from South Wales. I'm a Cardiff boy, albeit I've spent a lot of time in England.
Yeah.
But, I felt that I needed to learn about Richmond, what made it tick. And, they've got some of the best primary schools, in the country. And that's why people move there, because they want to get their children into these primary schools. They've got, the Crown Estate has got Richmond Green, which is, these unbelievable properties that are owned by, the land is owned by the Crown.
Yeah.
So at Richmond Hill, Richmond Park, the old Chelsea pensioners, barracks,
Been
etc.
there, yeah.
So it's all, just embedding myself in the community, working with the primary schools and funding them. And I got some funding to sponsor their new library that they wanted to build.
Okay, cool.
Putting events on so we could raise money for certain parts of the community. So I think that was integral as well to, and I do that now today. I think that's
embedding yourself within the community that you
definitely.
serve. And now they've got a football team called Richmond with Ted Lasso as manager.
That's right. Yeah.
So okay. So now you're obviously doing well. You're successful. London's going well for you, or whatever. So when did the sort of thoughts begin to shift to end up doing what you're doing now?
So I was in London 10 years.
Okay.
The company I worked for was getting bought out by a company called Dexter's. Now, Dexter's, if you know London, are, how can I put this? They're like a sort of a Foxtons.
Yep.
In terms of the way they operate, which is nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, there's some hugely successful people that have come out of Foxtons and Dexter's.
Yeah.
But they were buying Jackson Stops because they wanted a higher brand.
Yeah.
And the company was changing. There were people leaving.
Yeah.
I was at a point in my personal life where I was having to make some decisions myself, and I was wiped out after doing it 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it was now, what do I do? And I made the decision to come back to South Wales. Having been out, I spent a couple of years in Bristol, 10 years in London. I decided to come out, and I kind of almost had lost my mojo a little bit for it after all these years, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why.
Yeah.
And it's only since I've partnered with EXP and gone self-employed that I've realised what it was.
That's kind
about.
of the next level, doing it for yourself.
And all of a sudden now that I feel, this is quite nostalgic when I say this, I feel like that 23-year-old again, that is going back, who went back in as the viewing person and had that appetite to really crack on. 44 years of age now, and I feel like that 23-year-old again, having gone self-employed. So here we are.
So you obviously, now like being where everything, I mean, it did to some extent, and a lot of the companies that you work for, there was a lot on your shoulders. But what's the big difference you're finding now between like doing it for yourself and not? What lessons could you share? That.
I think there's a couple of things here. I mean, I think you're getting paid a salary. You're also, you're getting supported to a degree. Yeah. And you get huge support with the XP, and we'll touch on that in a sec.
Yeah, of course.
I think you're always an estate agent, and now you're a business owner and an estate agent.
Yes.
And I think that's the big thing, is that actually, oh wow, there's so much more to think about here than I initially thought. Yeah. Because when I'm working for someone else, I only have to look after the operation.
That's it.
Now I've got to look after the operation, behind the scenes. What are we going to do on the marketing? How are we going to brand ourselves? How are we? And so, having conversations with the accountant.
Yeah.
He said to me, you can't just do that. You can't just take money from the company into you, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So there's all these things that you now have to think about that you didn't necessarily have to at the time.
But I guess that's what's exciting you as well, because every day is going to be significantly different. Like one day is like trying to find the properties to promote, and another day is you're sat on the podcast, driving in the middle of the country.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
There you go.
Because, I was very excited to come here today, and, it's different. It's, like you say, you're a business owner, you're going on a podcast, and then, later on, I've got an appointment in Pontypool, that someone wants to have their bungalow valued. Yeah. So it's all encompassing, and that's what I'm loving about it. It's, not one day is the same.
And one of the things I've realised, as I get older, it's you almost like the years pass, right? And then you realise you've got all these years worth of experience that you didn't have when you were 23. And I think what I've started to communicate now is those years of experience. Yeah. Because you're working and you're trying to win business, whatever. And I was like, it's fine. You can go and work with another company that's got 5 years experience, or you can work with someone that's got 30 years in the game and seen all the peaks and changes and troughs. And I think experience is underrated and underappreciated. And I think what's happening with me, as long as you continually stay checking it out, seeing what's coming, AI, oh my gosh, everything's going to, listen, 2 years ago, everything was going to be an NFT. It's like, you've just got to keep an eye on the trend, see where things are headed. But at the same time, things stay, like social media has stayed, websites have stayed, but even then, will websites be around in 10 years? So you're always looking at how the things are changing. And for me, it's those years of experience of, I think an investor, a guy that is a wealth manager I know really well, he said, it's the same with investment. Most people, like when they invest, they look at like a really short period of time. So look at maybe 3 years or 5 years. And the minute it gets choppy, they're like, oh, we got to sell, we got to exit or whatever. And he says, no, my job is to educate them on the last 100 years. Yeah. And he said, look at the 100 years, and this is a cycle, and it's a pattern. So what we got to do is manage manage the patterns. And like with yourself in property, you've seen recessions, you've seen crashes, so you've got all these years of experience of how to help people navigate, maximize their value.
Well, before we came on camera, we were talking about, the budget on Wednesday and how's that going to impact on the housing market.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you about the story I told with the new homes.
Yeah.
So there's always opportunity, especially in a estate agency. I think sometimes in the agency world, we can get fixated on, the economy and the budget and how is it going to impact. And agents are really great at promoting how good they are in a good market, but have a habit of moaning or how tough it is in a bad market. Oh God, it's not our fault. Its interest rates are high. It's not our fault. Rachel Reeves is going to kill us again. It's not our fault. Look over there. And actually, I think you've just, as a self-employed agent, you haven't got time for that.
No.
You have to be responsible and accountable. And say, look, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what the market's like. Because
but people will remember you. See, this is what I found is if you can help people navigate through their tough times, people will remember you in the future.
Yeah.
I remember we took on our website many years ago, and we went and worked. We had a conversation, and nothing happened. And I gave them loads of free hints and tips, and then unbeknown to us, nothing really came of it. So I was like, okay. And every now and again, I'll message them, hey, how's it doing, and whatever. 7 years later, they phoned me up in a panic. Someone's hacked our website, and the whole website's in Chinese. I was like, what?
Really?
So, and it's like, we know we should have worked with you many years ago, but we outsourced it to a company in Russia, which is why I did, and it's gone badly wrong. So naturally, I then helped them fix the problem, and we're still doing work with them to this day. And I think for me, it's like, we're not, it's can you help someone in that trouble and not go, well, you ignored me last time or whatever. It's like, no, just stick with it, because you just don't know. And I always use this story analogy. You might be someone's sentence, you might be someone's paragraph, you might be someone's whole chapter or whole volume, but you've got a role to play, and just keep in those conversations, because you just don't know when.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the property game is like that.
Yeah.
You do a good job, and people will remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
And when they need you again, they'll come back to you.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if it gets a bit choppy,
you can help them.
They'll remember me.
So now obviously you've got this new venture, so to speak. What excites you about it now? Why should someone have a chat with you, for example?
I think there's a couple of things here. I mean, number one, EXP is now the largest self-employed brand in the UK.
Okay.
855 agents. They're looking to get to 10,000, believe it or not. Wow. The next self-employed model has 200 agents.
Right.
So they've made huge ground already.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that you've got this local expertise in myself or an EXP agent that is experienced, a lot of the agents that are going to EXP just feel now is the time, because they've got all this experience. But you've also got the support of this global real estate brand, which there's 96,000 agents across the UK.
Okay.
I'm the first agent in the UK that is going to be doing commercial real estate for EXP as well.
Oh, nice.
So I've got a massive background in residential sales.
Yeah.
But certainly in the last 4 years, I've been doing a lot more commercial sales as well. So when I came back to Cardiff, I was starting to do some more commercial sales.
Yeah.
I then was working for a big auction house for a year, and I was fundamentally doing commercial valuations there.
Yeah.
So, I think the exciting proposition from my perspective is that I've got an all-encompassing service that can help you. In other words, if you've got a residential home you need advice on, I can help with that.
Yeah.
If you've got commercial, that could be anything from land to retail space to pubs, restaurants, you name it, I can value it. And I also do acquisitions and sourcing. So I'm very well known within the acquisitions world and the sourcing world. So I think as a brand, I'm not just one size. In
Yeah,
other words, an estate agent that does residential sales. I can do everything.
And I guess there's this the opportunity exists on a, like with commercial property for businesses now. Where as a business owner you're making profits. Is it worth investing in property as opposed to investing in stocks and shares and stuff like that? So I'm guessing you're not a financial advisor. I get that. So you're not here to give financial advice, but knowing that you're in the commercial space as well, I think that's becoming a bit more of a thing for business owners thinking, I don't know what's going on with the pensions. Maybe I need to look at something else to invest in.
The commercial space is now bouncing back quite robustly from COVID.
Yeah.
It had a big hit during the COVID years because there was no stability there.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we're seeing an improvement where it's becoming harder to be a buy-to-let landlord, especially in Wales. Now all of a sudden you've got the Renting Reform Act coming in over this neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And our experience of being 5 to 10 years, in front of you with Rent Smart Wales and how that operates, it's becoming hard work for investors. The tax breaks, the tax reliefs, all the things that would encourage people to become landlords. They're just not doing it. No. So where they're going now is the commercial sector. So a lot of the investors I deal with they're selling up their resi portfolio.
Yeah.
And they want to now go into commercial. So retail space, believe it or not, is bouncing back, even though the high street is still struggling, I think.
Yeah.
But office retail space, just having different opportunities, industrial warehouse, storage is becoming massive now.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a huge thing. So there's a lot of areas within commercial that investors are now are going to rather than the residential sector.
And it seems to me that you've been that becoming the opportunities where you can have conversations with business owners and entrepreneurs, and say, hey, look, this is where I'm at the moment. Is this a viable option? And you can have a chat with them.
Definitely.
And see what opportunities out there,
Yeah.
So what does the future hold? Like you're obviously in the midst of what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
How do you see the next 5-10 years mapping out for yourself?
I want to build my brand and my agency.
Yeah.
I see my future being with EXP and building that solid agency. I think agency needs a little bit of a shake-up.
Yeah.
I think the high street model, unfortunately, I've got nothing. I mean, the high street model set me on my way. And so I'll always be thankful to the corporate world of a state agency, because for someone going into it as a young man or woman, they do invest in you more than people think.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, oh, you're just a number. They do invest in you. And I think that model was perfect for me on my journey at the time.
Yeah.
Now, as a self-employed business owner, I want to be slightly influencing and changing the estate agency world, especially in South Wales. We want to make it
coming out in you again.
Yeah, we want to make it. I think the commercial sector can be a little bit old boys club.
Yeah.
I'll probably get a lot of heat for saying that.
That's all right.
But it's very much stuck in old ways, and I want to try and influence the commercial sector to bring it a more modern take on it.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the residential agents in the XP, they're superb at promoting the brand, promoting their properties for the client, and I think the commercial sector could head in that direction. So I think I want to build the brand, build a team.
Yeah.
And so I think in the next 5 years, it would be nice to have 4 or 5 other agents under my umbrella. Who are out there self-employed, and I can be a bit of a mentor.
No, that's great. Well, listen, you've got all the years of experience there to help them. I've absolutely loved the conversation in terms of where, just how you've taken those risks in a short space and then began to grow and learn. And I think for me, just someone listening to this podcast that wants to get into property and stuff, in terms of sales, I think one of the things I find underrated is that if you want to learn sales, estate agencies are good. the car game is good.
Yeah.
You know, or recruitment's good.
Yeah.
And we often like poo-pah someone like, oh, everyone hates estate agents, or oh, it's a dodgy car dealer.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you're into sales, you learn so much in those careers. So even if that's not where you want to be long term, or you've got climbs on having your own estate agency, or you know, you want to go into business in terms of recruitment. So these are the best training grounds for you to become an expert salesperson.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And I would encourage anyone that is thinking about the self-employed model, is thinking, my gosh, you know, this is a big jump for me, or a big leap of faith. Trust in yourself, back yourself.
Yeah.
I think I've looked myself in the mirror over the years, as you have to.
Yeah.
And I've said, look, back yourself. Because, you know, if you don't, no one else will. So if you're thinking about it, you know, back yourself and give it a go.
No, absolutely. And I think your story is that someone that has taken those risks, backed themselves, and, you know, is well on the way to being successful in yet another phase of your career. So thank you for taking the time. Really enjoyed it. And looking forward to getting you back in the future to find out how close you are to that 5-year vision.
Well, thanks for having me. I'd love to.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much for being part of the Purpose People podcast. Your listening to us on a regular basis helps us get the message out there that living life on purpose is the best possible life to live. How can you help us? Well, you can like and subscribe to us on YouTube, but you can also follow our podcast channels, which are on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. Please keep supporting us. Please keep liking and sharing us. Please keep following us on social media. And you know what? We're inspiring more and more people to live life on their terms.